Hey there folks, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be taking a look at my recently rehauled Halloween 2007 Rob Zombie's Halloween Michael Myers mask from Tots. This is the scarred version, the one later seen in the movie, with a little bit of added blood on there to the side. I already recorded this, but I didn't really like how it came out, so we're going ahead and doing it again. And I do want to state that we're not going to be putting this one on the bust like we did with the other masks. Only because, I mean, Rob Zombie's Michael Myers, he had brown coveralls and the collar was down and it's made out of a completely different material. When I put this one on there, it just really didn't look right. I was even going to put it on there just for some pictures, and like you can get away with a lot of the other Michael Myers masks wearing the original coveralls, but the Rob Zombie one just it doesn't really work. So I figured we'd just stay over here, kind of spin it around. And I apologize for the limited room. This mask is a lot bigger, so I can't really get it all in frame. It's very far away from me as it is, so I got to work on getting a bigger area just for masks, because for figures this area is good enough, but for masks it's not quite. But I think this guy came out pretty sharp. This is my first Rob Zombie mask. There was a couple of issues along the way, but I think overall it came out pretty nicely. One of the things I'm still working on is my blood. I tried mixing a few different things together to get it the way that I wanted to. It does have a glossy finish to it, but you can't really ever see it. It's only noticeable in some lighting. You can kind of get an idea of it being glossy. To give it that wet look, you can see it right there. It's just, otherwise it kind of looks a little strange in some instances. I'm not entirely sure how I feel about it, but I think the one for the Rob Zombie 2 mask, the blood that I'm putting on that, does look a little bit better so far. I think the rotting color is pretty nice as well. I do like it, but there was a couple of hiccups here and there as far as seeing exactly what needed to be cut out and what didn't in terms of the scars, because you got some people who aren't cutting anything out, and then you got some people who are cutting too much out. And I did cut too much out on some parts, but looking at my reference, it was kind of hard to juggle what to do and what not to do. I've seen some people cut these out, and I've seen some people not cut them out. Like, for an example, one of the things I ran into is I cut this all the way down, so it was just a flap. That appears to not be the case for the actual film, so I reattached it with some latex and sealed it back up, because it looks like in the film it's supposed to be cut all the way through, but they left it intact. That way it kind of keeps the structure of the mask solid. And this one right here is one where I can't really tell if it's attached or not. This one I just cut out for the Halloween 2 mask. It's separate, but for the Halloween 1 pictures, it looks like it's cut apart. So it's kind of hard to tell. I'm sure there's some differences in some of the masks and whatnot, but I think the overall paint job came out pretty nicely. This mask wasn't stripped. I didn't think I really needed to at first. It probably would have looked a little bit better if I did, but I didn't strip the mask for this one. And also, I didn't completely rehair it using crepe. I just used the hair that was already with the mask, along with the hair that I got with the Dream mask. My Rob Zombie Halloween 2 mask will be rehaired with crepe hair, and that will be for sale. This mask is for sale if anybody is interested. However, I do want to mention one thing that I did do. This is something I mentioned in the previous video. It's kind of my little trick that I put together, usually for the castle stretch, but it does work in this instance as well. It's using these the pincher pieces, the nose pieces for a surgical mask. Now, normally they have these little metal shanks in them, and they work very well for doing what I'm going to show you in this video. But during the pandemic, a lot of these masks, they traded out the shanks. As you can see here, it's just a little piece of metal right there. I like to call it a shank for some reason, I don't know. But during the pandemic, it seemed like a lot of these got switched out for what looked like bread ties. I'm sure that's for a cost reason, because they were pumping out so many of these in such a short period of time. But they've went back to these shanks. Now, what I use them for is I'll take this out, cut it to whatever size I need, and bend it over on itself just a little bit, just so you don't get that sharp edge. And then I leave it in this sleeve, and I cut the sleeve down to the size. That way there's some nice comfort in there. You don't have to worry about getting injured or anything if you like to put these masks on. And what I did for this one is I put it on the bridge of the nose. First of all, the nose doesn't seem to be as contoured as it's supposed to be. or at least with this specific copy when I got it, the nose looks very contoured in the film, but mine didn't. But that wasn't the issue. Well, it could have been it could have been what was causing my issue actually, but the eye didn't seem to be entirely cut right. The way that the Myers mask is shaped is it kind of curves in. It's the way human faces are shaped as well, but the eye up here kind of curves in the temple region. This kind of curves in like that, and you'll see that it's very prevalent on the H1 mask. But my mask wasn't doing that. It was kind of like staying flat. As you can see here, that's kind of what it did, but I put this method on the bridge of the nose. This is my method for a castle stretch, and you just pinch that together, and it kind of brings it back in the way that it's supposed to, and it makes the nose a little bit more contoured the way that it appears to be in the film. So that overall really helped. This area is very defined with the Rob Zombie mask, and the nose is really defined, so that really helped in this situation. I don't think that's necessary for all of the masks. It was just this specific copy that I had trouble with. So that is something to keep in mind. If anybody were to purchase that, that's what this looks like. And when we get closer to the end of the video, I will show you what it looks like inside, but we're going to go over we're going to do an overview first before I have to take everything apart. But yeah, so I do that with my castle stretch, and I will say this again. I put one at the bottom of the chin, and I put one above the lips for a castle stretch. That way you can kind of pinch this in, and it causes that castle stretch look. So that's what I do. That's my method if anybody wants to use it. It does work out pretty well. How I attach it is I keep it in the sleeve, like I said, for protection. That way you're not just putting metal right up against your chin or your nose or anything like that, or your eyes. So I just glue it to 2 points. So if I was doing castle stretch, I would just glue it on 2 points on the chin. That way the whole middle section is free to bend, and you don't have to run into issues. Along with the eyes here, it would just be glued at the bridge of the nose, or at the sides of the nose, and then the whole bridge of the nose is free to move. So that's how I would do that. But moving on to the rest of the mask, I think it looks pretty good. I did cut the mask in the neck area. And Mikey is sitting on a Quaker Oats box because I'm running out of stands, so forgive me. But I did cut the neck at least accurate to the image I was looking at. I've seen a couple of different versions looking at different masks. The color that I went with the rotting color is a mixture between greens and yellows and a little bit of browns. I did start off with a much brighter yellow based off the image I was looking at, but then I realized that was very boosted in saturation, and a lot of the other ones are kind of, this is even still kind of too saturated for some versions of the masks that I've seen, but I like this. I think that this works out well. I think overall the Michael Myers masks from the Rob Zombie films were sculpted really well, but I think they kind of lack in really nice paintwork. Like when I set this next to the most recent H40 that I did, it doesn't look as good. It looks like a store-bought mask, and I think that's just because it's just lacking so much paintwork. But by itself, I think this guy's killer. I really am really proud of how it came out, but the actual movie mask is even more so subdued in its paintwork. It's really just a gray mask with a gray wash with a slight bit of rotting. I mean, there's not really any defined shadows in the lips or the cheeks or the eyebrows to bring it out, anything like that, like the Christopher Nelson masks have. And that's no slight on the guy who created the mask for these movies, because they still look really good. It's just in comparison, there's a lot less going on. So it kind of makes it look a little less interesting to look at, I suppose. But under some nice lighting like we got here, you can see those shadows are brought out and it looks really sharp. But just sitting on the shelf, it kind of blended in a little bit too much for me. But I still think it came out pretty sharp. As far as the back of the neck, I couldn't really get any images in terms of, at the time while I was working on this, I couldn't get any images of the back of the neck. However, Brutally Arts, is that what it is? I'll throw a picture up on Instagram. He's a mask rehauler. He showed some images from one of the screen used masks from the first Rob Zombie film, and I'm pretty sure he did a 360 of that mask with those images from the 45 Years of Terror convention. And you get to see that the kind of little wrinkling kind of goes all the way back through. I didn't bother with that. I could have went back in and did it, but I did not. So if anybody were to sell this mask, or if anybody were to want to purchase this mask, I probably will go ahead and do that for them if they request it. Otherwise, this is how he's going to be chilling out for the time being. But I think this guy came out pretty cool. There's some washes. Some of the wash needs to be refined a little bit because I ran into some issues. I also ran into the same issues with my Dream mask, where I went a little bit too heavy-handed and I had to lighten it back up. So that's something that I'm still working on. But in terms of the blood, I went with a mixture between the Brutally Art, and right here you can see that there's just a slight bit of cracking in the blood. I don't really know how to work around that. I tried mixing latex into my blood and it just created an awful smell and didn't really do anything useful. I mean, even with the Tots masks, when you bend the blood too much, it seems to crack. So I'm not really sure how to work around that just yet. But in terms of the shape that I went with something that's accurate to one of the images that I was looking at. That's for the screen use copy, and then also another rehaul artist. I'd seen a blood streak that I really liked, and I kind of mixed those two together. So that's that. I think it's a nice color. It just doesn't really look wet unless you hit it perfectly. So I'm still working on that. And like I said, with the cracking, I'm not entirely sure how to work around that just yet. And then you get a little bit of smudging on the side of the cheek there, and then also at the bottom of the neck. So, oh, let's fix his face. All right, so I think we're gonna go ahead and kind of wrap it up here because this video is becoming a disaster. But yeah, guys, I'm pretty proud of this thing. If you guys are interested, just you can either message me down in the comments and we can go from there, or you can go over to my Instagram account at @therealcox_studios and message me there. If I don't hear anything from anybody in the next few days, I'll probably throw this guy up on eBay if I haven't already by the time this video is uploaded. But yeah, I think he came out pretty sharp. I'm pretty proud of him. If anybody's interested in this guy, just let me know. And before we move on, I will show you what the technique is on the inside of the mask. You can see that this is a bit of a disaster in here as well. I'm working on trying to keep the masks clean on the inside as well, because I've seen a lot of guys are pretty good at that. So that's something I need to work on myself. But you can see that's what the inside of the mask looks like with that little piece in there. It's just glued in there, and the padding is left in there for some protection, so there's no worries about getting it around your eyes. So yeah, guys, that's about it. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button, subscribe, notification bell. All that would be greatly appreciated if you decide to do so. And if you like this video, you might like my second channel, Michael's Customs and Comics. If you want to go over there and hit the subscribe button, maybe watch a couple of videos, that would be greatly appreciated as well. But with all that being said, I think I'm going to get out of here, get out, move on. And yeah, so until next time, true believers.